All right, a little cold weather riding today. It's not that cold. I think it's probably 38 degrees or so. I will not have my bike. I'm gonna do a loaner bike here. I just dropped my bike off at the service department. So I'm riding a 1300 GS, not the GS Adventure, which is my normal bike. So maybe talk a little bit about the comparison, the GS Adventure compared to this GS. Well, let's start with getting the heated grips on. And the heated saddle. All right. It's in road mode. Put it in dynamic. So it says 36 degrees. Obviously, I'm in city traffic, so it's not very cold. I'm wearing motocross gloves because my bike, the Adventure I just dropped off, I'm having the hippo hands on. And with the hippo hands on, you don't really get any cold air over your hands. And with the heated grips on, it's warm enough inside those things, even in really cold climate, to just ride in motocross gloves, which is my preference because I can feel the controls better. I do have a pair of winter gloves with me just in case if I need it on this bike. So it obviously feels much smaller than my bike. Engine is obviously the same, transmission is the same. I believe that this bike has the adaptable suspension, so it lowers itself at the traffic light. At least it feels really low compared to my Adventure. We'll see if it raises up here when we start going. Yeah, I can feel the suspension coming up. Very nicely so though. So clearly the riding position feels a little different. The tank is more narrow. Clearly it's more narrow out in this area, but also it feels more narrow where my knees are, although it might not be. Sometimes that's just an illusion because it looks more narrow. Weight wise, this bike is probably 75 pounds or 70 pounds lighter than my bike. My bike comes in just at 595-ish something, just under 600 pounds. This one is 525 pounds, with full of gas and oil. And we're only doing 40 miles an hour here, but the ride's really nice, feels really firm. And of course, when you come from a larger bike like the Adventure, this feels really small, although it is a big bike. Most people that buy the GS consider it a big bike, and it is a big bike. It just feels tiny compared to the GS Adventure. So why did I pick the Adventure instead of the GS? I started out with the GS. My first BMW in the Adventure class was a GS 1200 back in 2014, I believe. I really liked it, and I at the time thought that adventure was a little bit too big for me. It looked very intimidating. Then I was at a trip in Portugal with back then Touratech Travel and Adventure, Touratech Nordic I think they were called, and I got the opportunity to ride an adventure, and we were riding on top of these ridges, fire roads, and some of them were really rocky, and I really could feel the difference in the suspension travel when we were going fast off-road. The adventure have about 1 inch more suspension travel, and I really felt like I was floating over all these rocks. This was not a gravel road, this was off-road, fire trails, and some of them really rocky. Some of them we were probably going way too much faster than we probably should have gone. And on the GS I really could feel it, and when I tried the GS Adventure, it felt like I was floating over these rocks, and it felt like I had so much more control over the bike. So when I came home from that trip, I went and ordered my first adventure, and I think the one I have now, a 1300 Adventure, it's my 5th adventure and my 6th GS type bike. So for me, riding it, I like the bigger bike. I like the longer suspension. It's almost 1 inch longer suspension travel. Is it needed on the road? No, not at all. Is it appreciated off-road? Yes, it is. And the trails we have in Michigan, it might not make a big difference, but if you go out and ride one of the BDRs, for example, Colorado is a good one. Colorado, especially the southern part, has a lot of rocks. Some of them are, head-size rocks you're going over, and being on that venture makes a big difference in my comfort level. And I also feel that the bike is more capable. I hit the skid plates a little bit less because you're almost 1 inch taller than the stuff you're passing over. Mostly rocks in Colorado, not a lot of logs. I also like the larger fuel tank. Do I need that range? No, I do not. Sometimes I need to stop anyway before that, but it's certainly nice to have, especially if you're going with the group and you're off the beaten path, and you really have to make sure that you fit in the gas station so you don't run out of gas. If I ride with a bunch of people that are on a normal GS or a KTM or a Honda, whatever it might be, I'm normally the guy with the largest fuel tank, and I'm not the guy that's going to run out of fuel first. So when we do the fuel planning, if you plan so the other guys can make it, I can for sure make it on the fuel I have. Also, a couple of times people have run out of fuel, and it's nice to have extra fuel in the adventure tank, and I have a small siphon hose, so it's normally in the saddlebag, and so I can siphon a gallon out if I need to and give it to somebody. If I did not do off-road, I think the GS will be a perfect bike for me. I'm also not into long distance on-road riding. Again, if you're a long distance on-road rider, the Adventure is great because you can go far before you have to stop. And if you're one of those people that like to do the iron butts and you want to do 1,000 miles in 24 hours at the minimum, I'm not one of those guys. But then having a large fuel tank is clearly a positive. But this will be a great bike the day I feel I can't do the off-road riding or the BDRs anymore. But even going slow, city speed, 36 degrees outside. I have the heated grips on 2, so not the highest. The highest setting is 3. Got a saddle heat on 2 as well. Same thing there. Highest setting is 3. Very comfortable. Heat coming out from the saddle. Very comfortable from the hand grips, even with motocross gloves. The wind protection here does a good job at this low speed. I do have a heated vest on, but I don't have it connected, because I left the cable with my GS Adventure, and the cable I have for my heated vest is plugging into an outlet I have installed on the left side of the bike, and it doesn't connect directly to the BMW outlet that's up here. I know it sounds silly to say, because many consider the 1300GS a big bike, but sitting on it here in traffic, between traffic lights, it feels so small, and with the suspension lowering itself at the lights, it feels really small, which is great. You don't want a bike to feel too large on you, but I have to say, with the adaptable suspension, this bike is a good bike for anybody. And if you're a new rider and you're one of those people that feel like you really need to put both feet on the ground at the traffic light, with adaptive suspension, this bike is for everybody. And I don't know what height the seat is on this, if it's in a low or high position. I would assume it's in the lower position, since it's a demo bike. And the transition for the suspension is so smooth, you do not feel it. You really have to know it's there, and you have to look for it to feel it. I'm stopping here. The bike is lower. I can put both feet on the ground, which I normally don't do on my bike. I just put my left toe on the ground. Alright, that was the ride home in 34 degrees on a 1300GS for change. It was a very pleasant ride, so thank you for watching.